Okay, so this is the second time I'm starting the live stream. I got some feedback that the first time my mic wasn't working. So if you're live and in chat right now, please let me know so I don't go on my 3-4 minute tirade about how the Jazz played tonight and have no one listening, or at least people wanting to listen, but no one on there. So before I get into it, please like and subscribe. We're shooting to get to 250 subscribers by the end of this week. So if you can help us get there, that would be awesome. Today, Jazz were able to pull out a win against the Denver Nuggets. Awesome. So we're hearing. So the sound is good. Okay. Let me gather my thoughts. Jazz pulled out a great win against the Denver Nuggets today. Now, statistically, wasn't the cleanest game. And when you look at it, the Jazz overall were the better team for the first 20 minutes of the game. Let Denver for the end of the second quarter and first 8-9 minutes of the third quarter definitely take those reins. And then the Jazz were able to come back, take a lead into the fourth quarter. And while they did try to give it away, were able to keep that lead and then pull out the win. Now, what really hurt the Jazz and helped the Jazz were the free throws. They had 13 more free throw opportunities than the Nuggets, which is just absurd overall. But they only made 5 more than the Nuggets. So some of those misses were from Bojan and from Conley, who you don't want to see miss. I believe this was the first time in Mike's career where he had more than 2 attempts and didn't make a single free throw. So that's definitely something you want to see the Jazz work on. However, their turnovers were not nearly as bad as they've been. They only turned it over 13 times compared to Denver's 10 times. So looking at it, not the cleanest game, but you are playing not a really great team this year, but a team with great players in Jokic and in Murray. When you look at Jokic's and Murray's points, you had Jokic with 35 and Murray with 30. So those games are always going to be close. But what's most important and what's really hurt the Nuggets this year is the question of who's their third scorer. The rest of the starters only provided 14 points. And then you did have 9 points from Dozier off the bench, but no one else really contributed. When you look at the Jazz, you didn't have a single starter over 20 points, but you had Mitchell with 18, so close. Gobert with 14 and Gobert with 15 and Conley with 14 and Bojan with 17. So about 15 each. And O'Neal almost getting to double digits with 8. And then you had Clarkson come off the bench with 23. So while the Jazz don't really have a player who will go out and score 30 every night, that player could be Donovan when he's in rhythm. They do have any number of players who could give you 20 plus. If Bojan, Conley, Donovan, or Clarkson give you 20 plus in a night, that's not a surprise. Gobert, a bit surprising, but he's definitely capable of doing it. So the Jazz having a very well-rounded offense gives them a benefit in games like this where no one really took it over, but because of the lack of team offense on the Nuggets, the Jazz were able to beat them tonight. So let's take a look at the rest of the stats. Take a look at plus minus. So O'Neal and Bojan and Mitchell all finished in the minus. Close to 0 though. Mitchell with -6 being the biggest one. And Gobert was in the positive, and Conley was plus 17, which shows even though he didn't put up a lot of points, the assists that he provided tonight in 8 assists was just overall super valuable to the Jazz in this game. That instigation helps a lot. And while Donovan only put up 18, which is lower than you want to see him put up in any given night, he had 7 assists, which is just a testament to how much Mitchell has been working on growing and preparing to be able to assist the team in other ways when he can't score by helping his teammates get those shots off instead of just going to the basket over and over again. While he was 7 for 20, that could have been worse. In other years, he would have been 10 for 30. And so, while 7 for 20 is not my favorite, it's definitely a better stat overall. So, Carter Chive says in the chat, Mitchell was pretty bad in the first half. Yeah, I don't have a separation between the first and the second half, but Mitchell just overall just wasn't his game, which is really disappointing, especially with the show that he was able to put on in the playoffs last year against the Nuggets. He was 0 for 7 from 3 and just not the Mitchell you want to see. But it is nice to see the Jazz win a game when Mitchell didn't go out and play lights out. 2-3 years ago, before they got Bojan and Conley, if Mitchell has 18 points, unless the Jazz are playing like the Nets at the time or the Knicks, the Jazz aren't going to be able to win that. So it's really nice to see the evolution of the Jazz having a team offense that they can rely on consistently. So yeah, Coulter says that he was 1 for 10 at one point. Yeah, he really just started off poorly overall, but not a lot that you can say for what he did. I'm sorry if the stream is really discombobulated. I've just had a crazy busy day with some stuff that's went on, and I'm not as here as I'd like to be. So gonna try not to let this happen again in the future. If you guys can hop in the comments and give me some talking points or your thoughts, that would be awesome. That's what makes these live streams really great, is just getting your opinions and where you think the Jazz are going to be. So this is the 5th game that the Jazz have won in a row. So after some really disappointing losses to the Timberwolves and Suns to start off the season, along with the back-to-back losses in New York, the Jazz have put together a really great stretch here, beating the Bucks in that stretch. And while the Hawks and the Cavs aren't necessarily the best teams that you're going to face, like they'll be lucky to make the playoffs this year, picking up those wins is still just super important, especially when it's such a tight race in the West. But the Nuggets tonight was a well-needed win before we play back-to-back games at home against the Pelicans, which really are just one of the dark horse teams in the West. If they made the Western Conference Finals this year, I would be shocked, but it wouldn't be out of nowhere. So I do think the Jazz will win these 2 games, and I think it's important for them to. But they definitely have the talent, is with Williamson and with Ingram, just to go out and beat anyone in the league. So Best Nightmare said Rudy is paid $205 million and can't even sink his free throws. What's up with that? Well, if you compare what Shaq would be making if he was in his heyday and he couldn't make his free throws. So I do want to see him improve there, but correlation between center pay and free throw making has never really been a thing in the league. So not my biggest concern with the Jazz. And Carter Chiver says, I really think the Jazz could win the finals this year, no cap. So I think the Jazz, if they hit fire and if Donovan and Bojan and Conley didn't miss a beat, and you have Ingles coming in at full health and Gobert just playing solid defense, I think they're capable. I think that needs to be 16 plus games of just flawless basketball. So while they're capable, with the way the Lakers are playing and just the depth of the West, getting there is honestly just going to be way out there, as much as I would love to see that. And Corbin said, yeah, if Mitchell could be consistent. I don't know what's up with him this season. It's just been, maybe I'm just watching it closer, but I feel like his lack of consistency has been a lot more profound this season. So I really hope to see him click here soon. And I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if there's things that are going on in his personal life that are making it hard, or overall just what's happening with him, but I do expect to see him come back and start playing consistently. It would just be nice if that was now, obviously, but it's not. So the Jazz are going to have to do what they've done and have Conley and Bojan and Clarkson fill in for him and maybe have a crazy night from Niang or Neal. And when Ingles comes back, I think that will help the Jazz a lot. I know he can be pretty polarizing and he does have games that are super frustrating, but I think his lack of efficiency this season has been a lot to do with that Achilles strain. So once he's back, I think we'll just see a new and rejuvenated Joe Ingles. Clarkson was amazing. If Sixth Man of the Year was voted on today and he didn't win, I would be shocked. I expect to see him continue to put up 15 plus a night. And honestly, I would not be surprised if at the end of the season, he's averaging 20 points a game. He's at 17.1 right now, which is tied for 49th in the whole league. So when you look at it, there's 150 starters in the league, and he's not even one of them. And he's tied for 49th when it comes to how many points he's putting up. Clarkson is probably better than even if Exum was at full health. I would love the defense that Exum could bring, but I think that trade was an absolute steal for the Jazz and is really just catapulting them to the conversation of the Western Conference Finals, where they weren't in that last year before they had Exum. And another comment was Clarkson has been pretty consistent this year. ESPN only pulls up the last 5 or let me pull up the rest of the games this year. I don't think there's been a game where he's scored less than double digits. So 2021 regular season against the Clippers, he only scored 9, but every other game this year, unless I'm missing one, he's scored 10 plus. 26 was his season high against Milwaukee. So that's a game where the Jazz really needed him to show up, and he came out and showed up against one of the better defenses in the league and a team that is possibly going to make it to the finals. So it's not like he's going out and putting up 20 when we're playing the Knicks or the Nets or the Warriors. He's doing it in big key moments that help the Jazz get wins that really show the talent and the potential that they have. Best Nightmare says definitely an XM is about to be traded. I wonder. I'm pretty sure he's injured, which just is really disappointing. Like, one thing that I just never want to see happen to any player, even if they're on another team, is just to have their career constantly marred by injuries. It's so disappointing to see potential like that just never come to fruition, not because of a lack of desire or a lack of like putting in the work, but just because their body isn't letting them do it. It's a really sad thing to see. So I'm fingers crossed that somehow Exum's going to come back and have an NBA career where he's healthy and doesn't have to deal with this. But I really just don't see that coming. So thanks everyone for coming onto the stream tonight. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate just the community that we have here. And we're super excited to see that grow. We're trying something new this week. We're going to drop Wednesday morning, I believe, a video just kind of on the NBA in general, specifically talking about player empowerment, especially with James Harden recently whining his way out of Houston to get to the Nets. So please subscribe so you can watch that video and continue the conversation in the comments. Thanks so much and have a great start to your week and enjoy your MLK Day.